The series was always at its best when it was lampooning spy culture, and that's no exception here. Hello, and welcome to Frasier Fridays. Today we're going to do something a lot different. With the holidays coming up, I wanted to take a bit of a breather before I got back to doing regular Frasier episodes. But I still wanted to make sure to put out some content this week. So I thought we'd take a quick look at the final episode of the hilarious spy comedy Archer, which just aired its finale event on December 17th. For those that aren't familiar, Archer is creator Adam Reed's longest running show, with 14 seasons, airing every year since it first appeared in 2009. I'm not sure what the general public thoughts on Archer is. It airs on the FX channel, so it never gathered casual viewers in the same way The Simpsons or Family Guy, or maybe even Bob's Burgers did. But it's managed to be quite critically acclaimed and get good enough ratings to pull in 144 episodes over the last 14 years. Archer has gone through its fair shares of ups and downs to get here. The series was always at its best when it was lampooning spy culture, and that's no exception here. For me, the weakest episodes of Archer were the coma seasons. Sure, we got some good jokes out of them, and I really enjoyed Krieger as a bird, but it just wasn't the same, and it didn't work all that well. This episode picks up right where the last episode ended 2 months ago in October, with the UN voting on whether to ban all private spy agencies or not, which would put our characters out of both a job and a plotline. Archer has always threaded a really weird line with technology, where half of it looks like it's out of the 60s and 70s, while the rest is modern. That trend continues right through our final episode here. In fact, a lot of Archerisms continue through the finale. We have Pam yelling sploosh, we have references to Ray's robot legs, Perry wearing the dress from Krieger's anime wife, Mitsuko Miyazumi, who, fun fact, is voiced by Judy Greer, who is also the voice of Cheryl. And we have the return of Christian Slater voice character, Slater, and Katya, Archer's Robot X. And of course, when Archer is captured and tortured with a battery and jumper cables, we get a direct callback to the very first scene of the series, where the exact same line of dialogue was used. There's a ton of good here for longtime Archer fans, and I'm sure there's more references and callbacks I'm missing. Reed is a big fan of sticking those kind of things in, and if you know what you're looking for, you can even find references in earlier Archer episodes to his other shows, Frisky Dingo and C Lab 2021. With all the returning characters and references for the finale, we also have a few notable absences. Archer doesn't talk about the danger zone or yell, Lana! In fact, he's not even drunk during this episode, which is pretty odd for the character. Given this is the final episode, and Archer had to show some growth, he even references it several times, I don't mind the lack of drinking, but a danger zone call out would have been really nice. Also, some suppressing fire from Cyril. The missed callback jokes aside, the biggest weakness in this finale is dangling plot threads. And there are more than a few of them. The most glaring ones are at the end of season 11, during a mission in the Antarctic. Archer sees a Krieger bird from the coma seasons when he's being rescued from drowning in the water. Maybe this was just meant to be a fun callback, but I took it as an indication he had gotten some kind of brain damage from his time in the coma. In any event, this was never talked about nor explored again, so to me, it's a very big dangling plotline. The other one I want to mention, which is a little more frustrating, as it was set up in the penultimate episode, is the return of Barry. It's stated that someone keeps bringing Barry back for some reason, and in this episode, it's hinted at that it might be Krieger moonlighting for someone that's so awful he keeps drugging himself up so he forgets about it. That's a really interesting concept, and one I was hoping to see fleshed out, but it's not. In fact, it's not even close to explained. When Krieger starts to mention it, Lana says she doesn't care, and the dialogue is pushed away to be a permanent mystery. After Jessica Walter's death last year, we got a nice send-off for her character in the last season finale. This year, we had the introduction of Natalie Due's Zara to round out the cast without Jessica Walter's Mallory. Zara is a character I'm gonna have some mixed feelings on. I understand why she was brought in, and I didn't mind the character at all. In fact, the episode where her and Archer were trying to see who could take out the most bad guys was one of the standouts of the season. With that said, she was only around for 9 episodes, so she didn't really have time to grow or change as a character. I don't mind her. She's certainly better than the Coma seasons, but years from now, when I think back on Archer, I'm not even going to remember the character's name. Spoilers from this point going forward. Firstly, I want to talk about Slater's death. I like the choice to bring Slater back as the final bad guy of the series. He was always one of the stronger, ongoing villains, and after dealing with Fabian on the penultimate episode, I couldn't have imagined another Archer baddie coming back except for Slater. Slater promises to tell Archer who his father is if he saves his life, and Archer says it turns out he doesn't need to know. I like this as it actually is a lot of growth for Archer. In the past, we've seen Archer get kind of crazy over trying to find out who his father is. So for him to just let Slater die to save the world without getting to find out who his father is a nice bit of change for the character. A lot of the marketing for this season pulled a bait and switch on my expectations for this episode. The early trailers really emphasized how many times Archer had been shot and how much he drank, and that it was starting to wear down on his body. Then we brought in Zara as the new young agent, and I thought for sure we were going to get an episode about Archer realizing he's too old to keep doing this, and he needs to retire. Heck, Katya even asked him to join a group of past their prime spies. Archer, of course, realizes he's invincible and goes on to save the day like he always has. Archer has always been a pretty self-aware show, and I think it's best to keep this in mind when evaluating this choice. Going into this finale, I was giving it a 50% chance of getting an ending where at least Archer died, if not more of the characters. And then none of the characters except Slater end up dying. And here I think that's because, from a meta perspective, Archer is James Bond. He is invulnerable, and he's never going to actually suffer from his drinking, his sleeping around, or how many times he's been shot. In fact, even with his growth as a character over the last few seasons, he's still fundamentally the same person, since he's the perfect spy, and that's what we want from our perfect spy. With the James Bond comparisons in mind, I don't know how I ever considered it even a possibility Archer might die. As the episode winds down, we have a few great jokes. The first is the Barry prototype, which is hauled around in a huge case for a good chunk of the episode, only to be revealed to contain a tiny miniature Barry. Second is Barry and Katya merging minds and, having a good time with Archer. It's a very unexpected way for the character's last moments on screen to play out. And my favorite line is a terrible pun with Cheryl and Krieger at the end of the episode, where he pitches her a werewolf colony on the moon, and she says she's liking the idea. The last glimpse we get of most of our characters is shockingly reminiscent of the Cheers finale, with them all standing around a bar and celebrating. It's not as sad as the Cheers finale, but it's a nice send-off to everyone. Although I would have enjoyed 1 or 2 more good lines from both Ray and Cyril during that scene. Everyone else feels like they get a nice final line here. From there, we get a time jump and see Lana's got a stipend while she pursues Archer, who she's secretly seeing on occasion, while he has visitation with their daughter AJ. As the series wraps up, Pam returns and runs into Archer, where he asks her to help him in the field, as it's just not the same working alone. The series ends with them riding an elevator down together. As far as a closing moment goes, I found this to be just about perfect. Yes, Lana and Archer were always a love interest, but Pam was Archer's best friend, and the two of them were always the heart of the show at the end of the day. So ending with the two of them heading out is the perfect ending note for the show. Overall, this is a decent finale, and won't go down in history as one of the weaker ones. Cheryl felt a little odd with some of her moments here, as she was presented as crazier than usual. But otherwise, all the characterizations were spot on, as usual. The team's final moments in the bar were nice, but it would have been good to see a little more from Ray and Cyril for the finale, although Cyril bumbling the crypto at the end was a good spot for him. It also would have been nice to get some reference to Woodhouse, who, yes, the actor died in 2015, but his absence since is still felt on the series. Finally, the dangling plot lines left open is a little annoying, but given all the great callbacks and other returns from long absent characters like Katya and Slater, I can't be too upset about them. If you're interested in a funny, self-aware spy show that has maybe a little too much toilet humor for its own good, give this 8.5 out of 10 series, the end finale, a shot. Thanks for everyone that watched this week. Next week, I'm also going to do something a little different. Then we'll be back to our normal schedule the following Friday. God bless, and Merry Christmas, everyone.